Opening scene, dim fluorescent lights hum faintly in the massive, glass-encased control room of QuantumTech, a multi-billion-dollar tech company known for building real-time data systems for government and finance. It's just past midnight. Alarms flicker red on large wall monitors. Engineers are scattered across the room, visibly tired and panicked. Narrator, VO. It was just another night shift. Or at least, that's what they thought. The servers were supposed to be running smoothly. Dozens of high-level engineers have been working around the clock for nearly 18 hours, trying to patch a critical failure in QuantumTech's core system. The stakes? A potential $10 million loss per day. Engineer number 1, rubbing his eyes, frustrated. I swear we've tried every patch. This isn't code anymore, it's haunted. Engineer number 2, scrolling fast through endless lines of code. Back-end cache cleared. Kernel settings optimized. Server clusters restarted twice. It should have worked. Another alarm pierces the room. The screen flashes, core loop detected. Buffer overflow. System at risk. Narrator, VO. QuantumTech's flagship product, Sentinel-X, powered military-grade surveillance analytics and real-time financial forecasting. It needed precision. Speed. Stability. Any downtime could trigger a chain reaction, government clients, defense contracts, millions of dollars, all hanging by a thread. Camera pans slowly to a hallway just outside the glass-walled control room. A janitor pushes a cart. Mid-50s. Worn work boots. Quiet eyes that noticed everything. Narrator, VO. And that is where James Patterson came in. On paper. Just a night janitor. A man who cleaned floors, emptied trash cans, and worked the graveyard shift while others slept. But tonight, James wasn't just cleaning. He was watching. James pauses outside the control room. He tilts his head slightly, reading the alert on one of the wall monitors through the glass. James, softly to himself. Buffer overflow in a shared loop. He gently knocks on the control room door. An engineer glances up, mildly annoyed but opens it. Engineer number 3. Hey man, what's up? We're kind of in a crisis here. James, polite. Sorry to interrupt. Just noticed the error message from the hallway. Looked familiar. Lead engineer, irritated, not looking up. Familiar? With what? A mop bucket? Laughter from a couple of stressed-out team members. James remains calm, expression neutral. James. No offense. Just, if it says buffer overflow in a shared fallback loop, sometimes the fix ain't in the front-end code. It's usually a backup cache error. Could be pointing to server 7's old buffer that never cleared properly. The laughter fades. One of the younger engineers frowns, looks back at his screen, then glances at James. Engineer number 2. Wait. Server 7's buffer. That loop was deprecated weeks ago. Nobody even looked at it. James shrugs, modest. Could still be linked. Some of your older cache might not have cleared after your last version push. Just saying, dot. Narrator, VO. In that moment, the room went completely silent. A janitor had just pointed out something that 20 elite engineers hadn't even considered. Lead engineer, slowly turning around. Who are you again? James, grinning slightly. Just James. Night janitor. I've been cleaning this building 6 years. Sometimes, I read what y'all throw out. Awkward pause. Engineer number 2 rushes to a terminal. Engineer number 2. Pulling server 7 logs, checking buffer cache now. Beeping. Rapid keyboard clacking. Then silence. Eyes widen. Engineer number 2, shocked. He's right. The backup loop on server 7 never cleared. It's been duplicating data back into the mainframe every time the failover kicks in. That's the loop error. That's been the crash. Narrator, VO. They had spent almost a full day running diagnostics. Reviewing every inch of code. Poring over logs. Deploying patches. But none of it worked. Until now. Until James. Lead engineer, quietly. How the hell did you even know that? James, simple. Just listened. Watched. And remembered how your last patch 3 months ago affected those same systems. I clean near server 7 every night. Saw it flickering more than usual. Cut to stunned faces. Alarms stop. A green light appears on the master screen, system stable. Loop cleared. Engineer number 3, grinning, stunned. No way. Engineer number 2, under his breath. He just saved us $10 million. Narrator, VO. James didn't say another word. He simply nodded, turned around, and wheeled his cart back down the hallway. But something had shifted. Not just in the system. But in how they saw him. Opening scene, early morning. The sun begins to rise behind the QuantumTech building. Glass panels glow orange from the light. Inside, a few engineers still linger around the now stabilized control room, sipping coffee and talking in hushed, almost reverent tones. Narrator, VO. They couldn't stop talking about it. The man with the mop and the quiet eyes. The one who'd walked in, pointed out the root of a catastrophic failure, and left like it was nothing. But for those who had worked beside him, who had seen him every day, night after night, it wasn't surprising. Not really. Because James Patterson had always been different. Movie camera scene flashback, 2 years earlier. We see James in the server hallway, cleaning methodically. He stops for a moment, watching a young engineer argue with a colleague over a server fan overheating. He doesn't interrupt, but he tilts his head, notices the pattern of blinking red lights, and scribbles something quietly into a small notebook. Narrator, VO. He never bragged. Never boasted. But James had a mind for systems. For patterns, for rhythm, for silence that meant something had gone wrong. And over the years, while scrubbing floors and changing trash bins, he had built his own internal map of the building's logic. Cut to a montage, James reading discarded tech manuals from recycling bins, watching engineers through glass walls, jotting notes during his break, solving puzzles in a tattered Sudoku book during lunch. Narrator, VO. See, James didn't have an Ivy League degree. He didn't walk in with a badge that said, Senior Systems Architect. But he had something no textbook could teach. Pattern recognition. Curiosity. And time. Brain backstory, James's past. Scene shifts to a modest apartment. James sits on a worn couch, sipping coffee. On the wall, a framed certificate. Not from a major university, but a community college in Oakland. Associate degree in Information Systems, class of '98. Narrator, VO. What most people didn't know was that before James ever pushed a mop bucket, he had studied computers. He had dreams, once. Quick flashback, a younger James, in his early 20s, helping a high school friend repair their first desktop PC. Smiling. Dreaming big. Narrator, VO. But life has a way of detouring genius. His father got sick. Bills piled up. Tuition stopped. Dreams had to wait. And like so many others, James did what he had to. He worked. First as a warehouse assistant. Then a delivery driver. Then, eventually, as a janitor. Scene returns to present, James finishing a shift. He walks down a long hallway, mop squeaking behind him. But his eyes are scanning the server panels the way an artist might study a painting. Narrator, VO. But he never stopped learning. Never stopped paying attention. And in those quiet nights at QuantumTech, while the engineers debugged lines of code, James was solving his own invisible equations. Gear scene, early signs he was different. Scene, control room, 3 months before the meltdown. A minor issue occurs. Server lag. Engineers dismiss it as a glitch. Later, James passes by and quietly tapes a note to the engineer's desk, check loop mirror on node 3, fans overheating again. The engineer scoffs but checks anyway. The fan was overheating. Engineer number 3, to himself. How the hell did he? Cut to another night, James finds a piece of exposed wiring near a vent. Instead of just cleaning around it, he marks it, writes a short hazard note, and logs it in his journal. Narrator, VO. Over time, people started to notice. Not all at once. Not loudly. But engineers would glance up when James walked by. Some even began to say, "Ask James, he's got a sixth sense for these systems." Puzzle piece dialogue, younger engineer connects dots. Engineer number 2 and a younger intern talk over coffee after the $10 million crisis was averted. Intern. Is it true? The janitor actually fixed the loop. Engineer number 2, quietly. It's not the first time he's been right. We just weren't listening before. Intern. But how? He doesn't even code, right? Engineer number 2, shaking his head. No, he reads us. Reads the systems. Pays attention. Honestly. I think he knows this place better than we do. Repeat button cut to, James alone, humble routine. Scene, James clocks out. No celebration. No party. He just puts his name on the log sheet, nods to the front desk guard, and walks to the parking lot as the sun rises. But his notebook. It's full of notes, patterns, error codes, and small diagrams. Narrator, VO. To the world, he was just the janitor. But to those paying attention, James was something more. A silent architect. A living system monitor. A problem solver hiding in plain sight. Scene opens, it's 2 days before the night James solved the system failure. Inside the glass and steel walls of QuantumTech HQ, tension already hums through the air. The company is preparing for the launch of a massive software upgrade to its flagship product, Sentinel-X. A system that powers real-time threat prediction for military, intelligence, and Wall Street clients. Narrator, VO. They'd planned it for months. Every engineer had been briefed. Every code module was checked, reviewed, and tested. On paper, it was airtight. Until it wasn't. Cut to a bright Monday morning. Engineers are gathered in the main control room. On the massive overhead screen, Sentinel-X update, T-2 days. Below it, a countdown ticks. Project manager, confidently. This rollout will be flawless. Our competition isn't even close. We execute this, and QuantumTech becomes the gold standard in predictive AI. Applause. Cameras flash. A small media team records snippets for the internal company newsletter. Narrator, VO. The mood? Triumphant. Confident. Arrogant, even. But buried deep within the newest update, nested inside a redundant safety loop, was a single miswritten line. Just one. And that one line would unravel everything. Magnifying glass tilted left scene. The first warning signs. Night falls. The countdown on the mainframe now reads, Sentinel-X update, T-36 hours. A junior engineer named Nina notices something odd while running post-commit tests. Nina, frowning. Hey, Can someone come take a look at this? I'm seeing latency spikes in cluster 12. Engineer number 4 strolls over. Glances. Engineer number 4. Probably a debug thread. We'll clean it later. Just push through for now. Nina. But, the thread is looping. It's not just debug. It's cloning memory paths and duplicating failover commands. Engineer number 4, waving her off. Yeah. Standard redundancy. Keep moving. Nina sighs, makes a note, and moves on. But the screen flickers red for a second. Cache misalignment, loop mirror detected. Narrator, VO. She should have pressed harder. But when you're young, new, and surrounded by people with fancier titles and louder voices, you learn to keep your head down. Warning scene, systems begin to strain. Fast forward. It's now the morning before the full crash. Engineers begin to notice minor lags in the analytics dashboard. Real-time trading feeds freeze for fractions of a second, too short to trigger alarm, but long enough to raise eyebrows. Engineer number 1, to the room. We're running at 99% CPU across the north subnet. That shouldn't be possible unless. Engineer number 2, interrupting. We're not at full load. Could be a logging artifact. Lead engineer, decisive. Double-check the hardware routing and monitor the fallback queues. No need to panic yet. The words, "no need to panic," echo in the background as the camera zooms in on a diagnostic chart quietly going red. Narrator, VO. No one panicked, yet. But Sentinel-X was starting to fracture from within. The redundant loop wasn't just backing up data. It was recursively feeding itself, creating shadow copies of live operations that flooded the system like a virus. Only, this virus wasn't in the code. It was in the logic. Fire scene. The meltdown. Time, 11:42 p.m. The day before rollout. Several engineers are still in the office, prepping for a final overnight test run. Suddenly, every screen goes black for 2 seconds. Then flickers. Then red text appears, system overload. Fatal exception. Loop cascade detected. Engineer number 3, leaping to console. No, what the hell is this? Engineer number 1. Memory usage spiked to 700%, this can't be real. Engineer number 2. The fallback loop is writing over itself, it's copying cached protocols into live threads, this is a full-blown meltdown. Lead engineer. Isolate the servers, cut off node 7 and kill the mirror cache, now. The room descends into chaos. Phones ring. Someone starts live streaming data logs to an emergency backup. Multiple engineers yell over one another. The overhead status screen begins flashing red, system failure, rollback attempt failed. Narrator, VO. They were some of the best engineers in the country. But even they couldn't unravel the chaos their own update had created. Why? Because the system wasn't just crashing. It was looping itself to death. Man standing medium skin tone cut to, James entering the building. Meanwhile, outside, James Patterson clocks in. It's midnight. He walks into the building, greeting the security guard like always. Nothing seems different, until he turns the corner and sees red emergency lights glowing inside the glass walls of the control center. Narrator, VO. James didn't need an alert. He didn't need a meeting. He knew something was wrong, the moment he saw the red lights. He moves slowly toward the glass. Engineers are too distracted to notice him. He leans in, sees the scrolling error logs. His eyes narrow. He knows that pattern. He's seen it before. Months ago. On server 7. James, murmuring to himself. They never cleared the buffer. He steps back. Glances at his notebook. Flips to a page from 2 months ago, server 7 failover still active. Flickering patterns, possible redundancy leak. He knew. He saw this coming. Microphone dialogue, James speaks up, again. James walks to the door. Knocks. No one responds. He knocks again, louder. Finally, engineer number 3 opens it, frazzled and annoyed. Engineer number 3. Man, not now, this is a system-wide meltdown. James, calmly. I know. You're running recursive backups on a buffer loop that was never properly flushed after the last update. Server 7's backup logic is flooding your live system. Engineer number 3, startled. What? James steps in. Looks at the main screen. Points at a string of data. James. See that? Every time the fallback is triggered, it doesn't just replicate, it doubles the memory calls. Each loop clones itself twice, because of a line buried in the last hotfix. Lead engineer, now paying attention. How do you know that? James, shrugging. I've been watching server 7 flicker every night for months. It started after patch 6.4. You never removed the echo logic in the mirror cache. Silence. Engineer number 2 immediately begins typing. Engineer number 2. He's right. I'm in the patch notes now. That line was meant for testing redundancy, it was never deleted before final deployment. It's been ghostwriting protocols ever since. Narrator, VO. That's when it hit them. The crash wasn't random. It wasn't a hardware issue. It was a silent error they'd built into the system themselves, and ignored. James hadn't just noticed it. He had predicted it.